Hey guys, how's it going? Hakobo here with another Sound Design Lab, and today I'm bringing you a darker Reese that is useful in a number of ways, and this is what it sounds like. Now this is a project from maybe 4 years ago, and I'm just going to show you a little part of it just to show some context to the sound. So I use it kind of as a outro to the drop in order to transition it, and I go up high. I go from an F sharp to a G, and that leads into the F sharp root note of the next bass sound. It's a real cool way to lead into the next phase of your song. So the cool part about this sound is you have quite a few options when it comes to wavetable. To start, we're just going to go in and use the basic MG, which kind of gives us the most default sounding Reese that we're looking for. And when it comes to unison, which is an important part of the sound, you can kind of experiment between 6 to, the CPU killer 16, as long as you're able to bounce off audio or just have a good CPU. And let's go ahead and crank up the detune to about 0.3, and gives us this low hum. Now I'm going to turn down the volume because this next part's going to be kind of loud. How I get the really cool Reese effect is by throwing on a reverb filter, turning that on, making an LFO, which is just a ramp right here, and putting it, let's put it on bar right now. Go in here, and when we throw it on the cutoff, make sure the cutoff's all the way turned up. And when we bring it down to about 40, negative 40, and that's fine right there. What we can do is we could turn the drive all the way up, and that gives us this. That is so loud. Really, really deep Reese noise. Now, on top of this, I can just kind of leave all this the same right now. We can go in here and start messing around with ways to give it more movement. So you can just, bam, create a notch right here and throw on an EQ, and with each note you get more. Get more movement out of it. Now on top of this, you can also kind of define what parts of the sound get more, timbre or boosted by throwing on an OTT and messing with the multiband, in which I think I had it on like 140%, 170% here. Kind of gives the same. Kind of the same thing, but this has much more bass to it, so if you want, turn that up more. It's up to you what you like more. Kind of like that more right now. Another cool thing is we can go into global and start to change kind of how our sound, one, spreads across the spectrum by changing the width. So that just takes all this over here and just brings it in more. We can also turn up the range to kind of mess with the detune a bit. If you turn it all the way off, and as you go up the range, it gets more exaggerated. Now, something else that I like to really do is go ahead and crank up the portamento to about 400. Let's mono this out, and add some slide in between the notes. Now, when you don't have always on, the way that you cause slide between the notes is making sure that they overlap. And then when it hits an overlapping note, the portamento time is what dictates how fast it slides up and down, whereas the default FL Studio slides actually control time by the length, but that's kind of irrelevant when it comes to Serum. I can talk about that in another video. Something else that's cool that you can do is turn on a filter and just go ahead and throw an LFO on it like this. Maybe just bring it down to like 50 or so. And just play around to see if you don't want to get rid of too much of the high frequencies. The only point of the filter is to add kind of like a wobble movement. So we can go ahead and put it on 1.8. And if we go into the notes right here, we can go ahead and do what I showed in my neuro video, which is just Add some movement that increases in rate as you go up the note scale. On top of this, you can just throw on some noise that you direct out, and with the same wobble, just kind of add some noise on top. It's up to you really, but it kind of just fleshes out the high end a little bit. Now, if you go into different wavetables, you can bring out a lot more sound. So just a normal saw wave will add so much more crunch to it, and bass if you're looking to have something that's more present. And that kind of wraps up the sound. It's pretty straightforward, doesn't really take too much work. It has a lot of options to play around with. You still have your flanger, your phaser, your chorus. I didn't throw any reverb on it. You can mess with how the hybrid dimension works with it. I noticed the thing with distortion is it can kind of mess with the way the bass comes out and add too much distortion on top. So I'd be very subtle with the distortion and very careful with it. It doesn't always work out very well in my opinion on this bass. So it's completely up to you. You can always go in and just add more movement by sweeping through notches. You can bounce this off, throw it in your noise oscillator, and throw another reverb filter on it and see how that affects it. That'd be really cool. But other than that, that just wraps out the foundation for this Reese bass, and I hope you learned something new. Feel free to comment any feedback or suggestions, or like and subscribe as it really helps me out. Other than that, hope you have a great day.